Energy and memory. That's a good title, huh? Energy, consciousness is energy, energy and memory. And I just had an exchange, and then I began going all the way back to being 4 years of age again. Remember I talked about giving everything away, what you're holding in memory, the difference between an inverted state of consciousness, a death spiral, the Metatronic spiral, the hamster wheel, chasing electrons, being self-generating, right? You get into fallen races, dying races. That's a whole nother discussion. But here is an example of the way I experience it. So what I do is I share my experience and of how I experience how the energy works. As a crystal spiral, it's experiencing what love is. It goes on forever, gifting energy. So what prompted this was a few minutes ago, I had a knock on the door, okay? Now the only time that I get a knock on my door or in my room is if somebody wants something, okay? Now, in this particular case, he had something to give me, okay? Now, when I was growing up, we had an old saying that goes, what comes around goes around. Remember back to the schoolyard, growing up in America as a little kid, and we got a sack lunch. Hey, you want to share what I got? You want to share what I got? Right? Now, the native spirit community amongst the clans and tribes understand this. Like, you come into a tribe and you need a horse, you whatever. Hey, you got no problem. Why is that? Because we know that there's more from where that came from. And it comes from the great living spirit of Mother Earth. Okay? Because you're in giving mode, not taking mode. Right? So one of the ways in which you can do the math on this with a quad function, remember some math functions, log scale distribution tables of water columns, particularly with trees, breathing trees, in a planetary consciousness terrain, in a fallen spiritual system, is the simple version of this is memory. What we hold in memory, what we're held captive to that's held in memory, which is programming, which is the RAM, which is the reactive memory. So the more that you're giving away in energy, the less you're holding in memory. So you're wanting to give all the energy away so that there isn't any shortage of electricity. Free electrons. That's what it is. So you want to flood the train. I flood the train with electrons. And so it's funny how these things work throughout life, because when I think about all the things that I accumulated since I was a little child, all that stuff is back into space dust again, as they call it, the recycling bin. So here's an example, right? So I guess it was about 3 weeks ago, that little Boy Scout, I went into Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts having a lighter with me, right? A Bic. But I also learned, if you go out into nature, you can create your own spark, right? Rocks, right? 2 sticks, remember, rubbing 2 sticks together? Little fine fibers of dead wood, like pine or oak. Where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So you know that even if you didn't have a big lighter, I know how to get a fire going through nature, what nature provides. Which means I don't need money to create a fire. Okay? I know. The spirit of fire. Big blast furnace. That's the beauty of being the genius, actually. The blessing. It's an eternal blessing to be an eternal spirit of fire. Right? Ignite the tetrahedron. So you have the exponential function. What is the function of an exponent? A log scale. Right? What is the function of a quad? A 4, which is a tetrahedron, which is fire that ignites a gas, hydrogen. Right? Trace gases in the atmosphere, right? Oxygen level content, right? 21%, 3. um, but in all seriousness, so I went to go get. All I needed was one lighter. That's all I needed was one lighter. But where I was in Safeway, they weren't selling them as individual lighters. They didn't have any of the individual lighter packs. So if you wanted a lighter and you wanted that lighter then, unless you're going to go spend time and money as energy to go chase around looking for one lighter in all the different stores, you might spend 40 minutes going to 6 different stores and not finding them selling, say, a single lighter, the cheapies, the Bics, right? So instead, here was a pack. I guess there was like 5 of them in there. Oh, so I need to get a 5-pack. Okay, so I got to spend a little more energy, but less time and energy to get 5 instead of just 1, because 1's all I need. So I brought the 5 back here, and it wasn't very long when all of a sudden I get a knock at the door. Hey, you got a lighter? Yeah, here. I've given 2 of them away. So now you see how that works? Future proofs past, Back to the Future. Hey, sure, here. No, take it, right? So when I got the knock on the door, guess what I was asked? A lighter. Do you have a lighter? So then, now I'm back to childhood, right? When they realize, whoa, this being seems to know how to be able to manage a still point in spirit with its energy, right? And so now we're back to needs and desires, right? So, so the way that this works is it's like, well, I didn't need the 5 lighters. I'm not accustomed to holding all this stuff in memory, okay? But here's an example, because the next thing you know is I'm thinking about a guy by the name of, I think his name is Alex Spanos. He's the owner of the Los Angeles Chargers, National Football League. So you know that football players are commodities on behalf of quantum inorganic artificial intelligence. So you know who Spanos is. I don't remember how many in numbers, in energy, as electrons this guy is worth. Okay? So I began thinking to myself, I began imagining who this guy is with how many billions of dollars that he's accumulated using his consciousness energy in which to accumulate all that money, right? And then what all that money has allowed him to be able to accumulate and thus put into his name as accounts. Everything that's being held in memory that is associated with his memory, which is associated with his energy. That's a big-ass vampire, boy. What we call an accumulator. That's a Metatronic spiral. That's a sucking machine, okay? A big one. Because then I began thinking about, could this guy named Spanos, send him a letter, ask him if he's capable of doing it. If he's willing to go out into an enchanted forest, listening to enchanted music in that forest, which means the forest is playing music in spirit form of music. Can that being go out into that enchanted forest, being at peace with all creation, to experience the beautiful music of creation, being one with all creation, and letting go of all that money. Letting go of all that money and everything that is held within his memory. That he was using his consciousness as energy to acquire more energy, and letting that all go as if he's going back to the still point from which it all began. being what love is. So I experienced that when I had a 1992, 91, I can't remember the exact year, Toyota pickup truck. And I was used to use it to go into the backwoods all the time, to go back as far into nature off the beaten track as I could, to go commune with the great living spirit of Mother Earth and everything that is playing music in nature in spirit form, going with the flow, right? And so I had with me in my truck about 400 to 600 kits, plastic kits that essentially represented collector's items, because there's a large community of folks that love to build models, right? Of airplanes, of ships, all kinds of stuff that represent the Truman Show, the programming. But they were worth, to some folks in that community, quite a bit of money, which meant if I was to sell all those and put them all on the market, they probably could have returned. Now we're in the rate of exchange between the log scale distribution tables of water columns, right, which is the torque speed differential between an inverter and a torque converter within a planetary consciousness field between two magnets. Now we're into the RH factors between negative / the positive, being one with all creation, being mononuclear, the blast furnace, right? Cold fusion, hot fission. So what happened is that I got caught in a blizzard that came in October at the bottom of Mount Lassen, which is a volcano. And I realized I think I should probably leave because I didn't have, the truck was having a problem with the transmission. So I thought, okay, I'm going to head towards Susanville. And this was at about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I got caught in the middle of a blizzard out in the middle of, well, the nearest town was about 75 miles. And I lost the drivetrain. The main drive shaft came right off. So I thought, well, that's fine. I'll use the front wheel drive transfer off the transfer case. And it wasn't going to go. So I'm stuck, right? So I'm stuck with all these kits, all my backpacking gear, everything that I use to go into the backwoods, right? And so I had about 1/8 of a tank of gas left, and then and it's blowing snow, right? And so I got the heater going, right? And so my parka was soaking wet because I went outside to try and see if I could put it back on, because I had a toolbox and it just wasn't going to go. So there I was, trying to get warm, stay warm in my cab, and about 4 o'clock in the morning, I got a knock on my windshield, and that's Caltrans snowplow. And I told him what went down, and so the next thing I know is he's plowing the road with the California Highway Patrolman, so the snowplow on the California Highway. In other words, he plowed the road to get a CHP to be able to get up to my location in order to pick me up and take me back to Susanville. I left that vehicle in a repair shop. And inside there, I had a little safe that had things that meant very dear to my heart. Like, for example, my father's Navy wings. My father, before he died, gave me, my dad was a naval aviator during World War II with the U.S. Navy. And so my dad gave me his commander's, the cluster that goes on your collar, your rank, and his wings, his Navy wings that he got when he was went through flight school at Pensacola in, 1939. But he was already a pilot before that, flying for Grumman, delivering planes to the same place, right? And so here I have all these kits and the vehicle. And guess what? I never saw that vehicle again. I never saw those kits. I never saw everything that I had in this little safe of the things, mementos. You know what mementos are, right? Things that are dear to your heart, that you cherish and value, so you're holding it in memory. I had to let all that go. I had to let all it go. It took me about 2 years living in Reno, Nevada, before I let myself on fire to let all that go. So that's why ever since that time I've been living out of a backpack. Right? Only using my energy for the things that I need in order to get through a day, because I'm experiencing a state of eternal peace, eternal love, eternal harmony, eternal balance. The balance in the numbers of energy, programming matter codes, the Ethernet, Ethernet programmable matter codes. Yeah. So I wanted to share that because I was listening to music this morning that naturally facilitates crying and letting go of all the tears and letting go of all the tears when I experience the music of what it's like to experience being in an enchanted forest. Letting it all go. You all have a beautiful day. We love you all. Be good to yourselves.